Hi.
Okay, Hare Krishna. We are here with Mike Dines and this Krishna Core podcast, chapter number 4. Today I have a very special guest with Mohan Das from Finland. He's a very dear friend of us. Mohan, how are you?
Considering the circumstances, I'm quite okay. I mean, of course, with the COVID situation and more restrictions being enforced once again, also here in Finland, where I'm located. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's hard time for everyone. So I think we are still alive. That's a good thing. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, Mohan, could you please introduce yourself? Like, I know that you got into metal music when you were 10 years old, and then into more hardcore, like 12. And then when you were 13, you became vegetarian.
And straight edge,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, try it, yeah.
And okay, like as far as my musical / spiritual or development of consciousness, yeah, I mean, I was always into music, like pretty much like from an early age since I was a kid, and I'm grateful that my parents, I guess, saw that potential. So I enrolled in the conservatory, the school of music, to study the saxophone, actually. And also in elementary school, I was in this like a special music class from the third grade until the 9th grade, which translates to between the ages of 9 to 15. Well, like when I started, to develop more of a, taste of my own, for music, I got into, like most kids at the time, I got into hard rock and metal, like Guns N' Roses, Metallica, and then Sepultura from Brazil. And through Sepultura, I actually discovered hardcore and punk. Obviously, I knew about preliminary stuff like the Sex Pistols and so forth. If you hear weird noise, that's my cat on her scratching post right next to me. So yeah. Yeah, through Sepultura, I actually found out about the early Finnish hardcore punk bands through Max and Igor, the Cavalera brothers in Sepultura, name dropping all these bands like Chaos and Rattus, Tervet Kädet, and so forth. And yeah, and coincidentally, like quite many of those early Finnish hardcore bands were from the city where I lived. I still do, in Tampere. So me and my friends, we got this Chaos reissue EP, and there was the contact address for the singer. Obviously, the band was long gone, but there was the current contact address, and we realized he actually lived just a couple of blocks, from our neighborhood. So, so one evening we just went and rang his doorbell. Oh, does Jakke from Chaos live here? Because his girlfriend at the time opened the door. So yeah, so Jakke came up. He was a bit hungover, and was okay, cool. I'm a bit under the weather right now, but just drop by next weekend, and yeah, we can listen to some records and stuff. So we started hanging out at his place, and this was like internet, like 1994, I think already, 93, 94. So that was like, kind of like this fast track to discovering old hardcore and punk and hearing these early 80s punk rock war stories from, as they say, straight from the horse's mouth. So, and obviously, like the whole, the traditional Finnish hardcore punk scene was very alcohol oriented. Maybe not so much drugs, but just like heavy drinking. And I never really felt like at home, with the whole, kind of like fighting the system, but to being too intoxicated to actually make a change. So and actually through the late Jakke from Chaos, may Krishna bless his soul, he introduced me to a lot of like the early 80s straight edge bands like Minor Threat, SSD Control, who he was in contact with because like in the early 80s they were doing a lot of record trading back and forth, so he knew all the guys, like Ian Mackay and Albaril. So and even like he would show like, he at the time, like in the early 90s, he was in correspondence with people like Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth, and obviously also Max Cavalera from Sepultura. But yeah, so yeah, I found out about straight edge, and it just made sense to me. I wanted, I was a punk, but I didn't want to get messed up. So
I think you're right about those kind of early Finnish punk bands. The kind of the Chaos and the Rattus, and that kind of like drink fueled. I mean, I know Rattus and Chaos were kind of like sort of late 1970s, but even there's a band, The Exploited over there. I've got the name down here. Ristetit.
Yeah. Ristetit were also from. They're still actually playing. Like I think the singer Lasse, he's the original member. Maybe the bass player is like an old one, but yeah. And actually, like quite a few of my peers, like from the mid 90s, who have played in the same bands with, they ended up playing in the later lineups for those, like the reunion lineups for those classic bands like Chaos and Kohu 63, Kohu 63, and Ristetyt. So,
I think what's really reading your history and Mardu sending over, because you're and Mardu know each other, and etc. And to hear that you got into music at the age of 10, and you were into obviously playing the saxophone as well, which is great, which you did later on in the Skinhead band.
Yeah, I played. It was funny because like I kind of like quit playing the saxophone when I got into heavier music, and I picked up the guitar, which is still like my main instrument. But just like some few years ago, I was a few of my friends had an oi band, like a skinhead punk rock band, and they were all into we shared a love for like the 80s early French oi, which was quite saxophone heavy. So I just kind of like brought up the idea of adding saxophone to the band. So yeah, I joined the band. The band was called Tammerfist, which is a play of words. There's this local rock fest called Tammerfest.
Yeah, so, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was fun because we got the chance to play same bills with quite legendary oi bands as Cock Sparrer and Condemned 84, Close Shave, Agent Bulldog from Sweden, Maraboots from Paris, France, and yeah, so it was a great experience.
I'll bet, yeah.
Yeah.
But there you are, kind of 10, getting into music, and then 12, becoming a vegetarian. I think you said at 13. So at the age of 14, then you visited a Krishna conscious temple. No, you visited a temple, I should just say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
How did that come about? How did that start?
Well, I think it's probably pretty much the same for most, punk and hardcore kids at the time. I was getting into straight edge. Like I said, first I found out about the early '80s bands like Minor Threat and SSD, but then I started getting more into it, and I discovered Youth of Today. And Youth of Today really, like when I got their album We're Not in This Alone, like the lyrics were just something, the mood of the lyrics was so different from like the, how to say, protest and survive ethos of the hardcore majority of the hardcore punk bands I had encountered so far, because Youth of Today lyrics were a lot about self-reflection and making a change in yourself. And of course on that album they have the vegetarian anthem No More, which because like the punk rock scene at the time was really political and quite socially conscious, and animal rights, like the whole animal rights movement was really gaining ground in Finland, like the whole vegan animal liberation movement. But like Youth of Today really solidified my decision to take up vegetarianism. And so then I found out, I think from Thrasher magazine, like they had this short show reviews and interviews, and so there was something about Shelter, and that it was comprised of ex-members of Youth of Today, and that they're a Hare Krishna band, which was, of course, when you grow up in punk rock, you kind of like develop this anti-authoritarian, anti-organized religion mood. So, but I figured, okay, it's the guys from Youth of Today, and they were like based on Raghunath Ray Cappo's lyrics. I thought, okay, they're level-headed guys. They're, there's guys. So if they got seriously into this Hare Krishna thing, then maybe there's something to it. And then this was in 1995. So the summer of 1995, Shelter released their Mantra album, and it was released on a major label, like quite an established metal label, Roadrunner Records, who had been, in the past years, they had been releasing a lot of, this like New York hardcore crossover type of stuff. Like, so they had a lot of promotion for the Mantra LP in like these big metal magazines in Europe. Like, I think they were like UK based magazines like Kerrang and Metal Hammer.
Yeah.
So, they had those promotional interviews for Shelter. And like in the photos, I see all them, wearing these wooden necklaces, like choker necklaces, and I had seen some other bands wearing those as well. So I asked this friend of mine, okay, like, can you get those wooden beads from the Krishna temple? And he said, yeah, I think they sell them, but you should be cautious, because like not all of their food is vegan, and they're gonna try to convert you into their cult. So, but he kind of hesitantly, he gave me the address for the temple, like, yeah, if you just want to get some beads, go ahead. And so I ended up making a day trip to Helsinki, because I lived in Tampere, and it's like an hour and a half, a bit less than 2 hours to Helsinki. So I found the temple, and I got my neck beads, and coincidentally, there was this one devotee who has just he wasn't a temple devotee, but he was active, in the community or the congregation, and he had just come back from New York, and he had brought a whole stack of Equal Vision records, albums, and merchandise. So at the temple shop, I could get all the Shelter and 108 and Prima records, and all this like War on Illusion fanzine and Equal Vision fanzine. So I got this whole like Krishna Core starter pack, and yeah. And I met the devotee. He was an older straight edge guy who had been into Krishna consciousness for some years already, and we got acquainted. And I just started bugging him with all random questions I came up with, and I must offer my deepest gratitude to him. His name is Kamalaksha Prabhu, and he's still with his wife Krishangi. They're doing a great job with arranging bhakti programs at their home and doing a lot of Krishna bhakti related artwork, comic books, and all kinds of cool stuff. So kudos to them. So.
And did you believe in God before this? Were you brought up in a religious household? Did you go to church, for instance?
Not really. I mean, my parents, I think they wanted to offer this kind of like a secular, maybe like how to say, like, I don't know if that would like the same concept, but it's kind of like this free upbringing, where you don't really enforce your set of beliefs or values on your children. But my maternal grandparents, or my grandmother, she was Christian, so she taught me to say my evening prayers, and all, kind of this, this. She established this child's faith, in me at quite an early age. So I guess that somehow stuck with me, even though like when I first got into punk, it was like, screw religion. But then even like before Shelter, there was this band Downset, kind of like a rap, hardcore crossover band, and those guys were all like old hardcore kids coming from the California straight edge scene. They used to be called Social Justice, and even like before Shelter, their singer Ray Oropeza, he was talking about spirit, like being really influenced by this like spiritual pacifism of Mohandas Gandhi, and also the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. So I remember I went to the library and got some of their books, even before I encountered Krishna consciousness.
Okay. So how comes that you got contact with your spiritual master, with Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj? And also, you were 19 years old at that time, right?
Yeah. It was towards the end of the year 2000. So I had been, into Krishna consciousness already for like 5 years, like from 1995 onwards, and I was like quite active, congregationally at the ISKCON temple. Like, of course, because I lived in Tampere, I couldn't visit Helsinki that often, but I was quite a regular at the temple by that time, and so there was this one sannyasi called Shripad Aranya Maharaj, who now goes by the name of Prem Prayojan, a really established Gaudiya Vaishnav preacher, and a highly intellectual and well versed personality. So he came to Finland in the summer of 2000. So I was really impressed by his mood and Harikatha, these talks of, the Krishna conscious philosophy. And and I think already some of my friends had been to Russia to meet Srila Narayan Maharaj, and some of them got initiated. So I was curious, okay, so because this Aranya Maharaj was already speaking so highly, although it's like, how to say, like very advanced Krishna conscious philosophy. So I thought, like, okay, how is his guru? Because if the student is like so qualified, then how great must his teacher be? So and it was in December of 2000. Sorry, I'm not crying. I have something in my eye, so pardon me. Oh.
Symptoms of Vipralamba or your Guru.
So in December of 2000, I had just started my civil service, which is like this community service you do instead of enrolling in the army. So it was quite easy for me to take some time off. So there was a group of devotees going to Germany, I think like southwest Germany, near Saarbrücken, like quite close to the French border, if I'm correct, to this big festival of Srila Gurudev, Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And that was my first encounter with Srila Gurudev. I think like the whole festival was just like what I remember of it. It was quite magical. Even like the first night we came there, they gave us a place to stay for the first night because we arrived quite late. And in the morning, I was walking up by a devotee, like almost walking over me, like going to the shower or something. And I was like, Mark Brown, is that you? Because I realized it was my old pen pal from the UK, Maheshwar Prabhu, who was at the time known as Bhakta Mark. And he was doing this Krishna conscious fanzine called Straight to the Point. So we had never met before, but I knew what he looked like. And so the morning of the festival, I finally meet my old pen pal, Bhakta Mark, and I think he was already initiated by Srila Gurudev at the time. So it felt like a really auspicious beginning for the festival. And but yeah, I was even like I went there, I tried to keep it cool, just observe. Obviously I wanted to see this elderly Gaudiya Vaishnav guru, who I had heard about before. For example, in Raghunath's book with Satyaraj Prabhu, In Defense of Reality, which was published by Equal Vision Records, there's a whole chapter basically glorifying Srila Gurudev and telling about his also his his background and his life story. So even with all the politics going on at the time, I had like a positive. I had a good impression of Srila Narayan Maharaj. So I'm also very grateful for that, because it's so easy to get caught up in this, really, Vaishnav apparat offenses, in the name of institutional politics. So, yeah, I'm grateful I was spared from that, at least, for the most part.
Mohan, we used to talk about sometimes that mostly in the 90s that the guys who came to Krishna consciousness because of hardcore music, they used to get connection with ISKCON, not many with the Gaudiya Math. Yeah, of course, you feel so fortunate for this to get connection with Srila Narayan Maharaj. But the thing is, what makes it so special for you? Like,
I mean, it's a lot. It's, of course, a lot of this, it's a personal, I'd say, like subjective experience. And, but, I think, when, I would say, when the disciple is ready, the guru will appear. And I was being involved in ISKCON, I had met many, great devotees, swamis, sannyasis, like the initiating gurus in ISKCON, and I had good relations with, and but I never really felt, I love Prabhupada, reading his books, I just thought, this is just such an amazing personality, so so I had this kind of I felt like I need to feel the same way, as I felt about Prabhupada, like this complete, conviction that, this is, this is a bona fide, just like the guru of the highest caliber or highest qualification. And it's, I mean, just like personally, just the mood, I think the way Srila Gurudev presents this Gaudiya Vaishnav philosophy it was very attractive to me. So yeah, but it's I think yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not like I'm not against ISKCON. I'm quite involved with the ISKCON temple for the past few years again here in Finland and in Helsinki. But just personally, I guess I feel it. It was my my fate or my destiny to meet Srila Narayan Maharaj, and just it just clicked. Meeting Srila Gurudev, it just it's kind of, I mean, I think it's kind of like in the material sense, when you fall in love with someone, it's there's the rational side, obviously, like I like these qualities about this person and their personality and whatever, but ultimately it's just that something clicks in the heart and you can't help it, it's yeah.
Yeah, I think somehow it helps you to understand more the mood and what Srila Prabhupada wanted to give.
Yeah, I think there's nothing in Srila Gurudev's teachings that would contradict anything that Prabhupada taught. But I think he came here to help. He came to the West to help the followers of Srila Prabhupada. In ISKCON and outside of the organization, because that was the last wish that Srila Prabhupada expressed to Srila Gurudev. So, in the same way as, Prabhupada made it his life mission to fulfill the request and the desires of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, to spread Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking world, in the same way. Srila Gurudev, in his old age, took it upon himself to, fulfill the request that Srila Prabhupada had told him on, basically on his deathbed, in his last days. So.
And in the last 11 February, it was all this day was like a long celebration. It was a celebration of the centennial of Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Would you like to say something about it, like what it means for you, and you did something special in these days, or?
One thing. Well, first of all, I feel that there's, more, unity. I think more understanding and respect now, between ISKCON and Srila Gurudev's mission, and like the Gaudiya Math missions in general. And you could hear such beautiful glorifications of Srila Gurudev from, for example, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, who is one of the major ISKCON gurus, spiritual leaders. And I think in general, people are starting to finally acknowledge and appreciate the wealth of Siddhanta and these, very high concepts of, Bhakti Tattva, the spiritual truths that, Srila Gurudev has given in his books and discourses. And also I felt just among, my God family, God brothers and sisters, this, sense of community that I think kind of, at least for myself, for many years after Srila Gurudev's disappearance, as we say, he's passing on from our material vision. I didn't always feel so connected, to his mission or the movement, but now I felt like, I was kind of like rekindling this spirit of everybody working together for Srila Gurudev's glory. And it was there was a whole Zoom marathon, of course, now because of the COVID situation and lockdowns all over the world. And so they did like a 60-hour marathon where so many devotees offered their Puspanjali, their heartfelt offerings, and reminiscing different pastimes of Srila Gurudev. So, and hopefully that spirit will, keep up all through this centennial year. So,
nice. Yeah, there was one thing I'm not sure where he said, but Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj said, now they will not know, but in the future they will know what I'm giving. I know you saw it somewhere, but now as you say, like I also was thinking this last week, like now people is taking so much care about Srila Narayan Maharaj was saying and giving it the times until now. He's giving something. So because of him, we have books like, I know, Jaiva Dharma, with the commentaries, and I know Madhurya Kadambini, You know, a lot of harikata, a lot of things that, a lot of beautiful disciples that we can get closer to them, and always you take something, and always something fresh, you know. So
Even
yes, like, uh, and also like I feel like it helps to understand more what the Guru Parampara is giving all the time, because it's like a flow of bhakti. Bhakti never stops,
and even like just personally, like I said, when I first met Srila Gurudev, I was a young man or a young boy, you know, and it's kind of like you know, how to say, like you give like you know, like sometimes the parents or grandparents, you know, give the child some, you know, deposit or like a trust fund, and you know they will tell the child, you know, because we are your well wishers, you know, we want to, you know, give you this like secure, you know, your well-being, you know, for the future. But you know, the child is preoccupied with the other stuff. So you know, at the time, you know, they won't appreciate. But when they come of age, they realize, oh, you know, what a wonderful thing, you know, my parents or my grandparents were looking out for me. And that's kind of like how I feel about Srila Gurudev. Like when I first received initiation, especially, you know, the second initiation of Brahmin initiation, Diksha, I think for many years, I didn't really quite understand like what a precious, valuable thing, you know, he had given me. And considering that I didn't have any of the qualifications or the, let's say, preliminary requirements for, you know, that standard, but just, you know, I feel like also like by Gurudev's mercy, you know, he is you know, he's raising us. He's, you know, he's you know, he's assisting us, you know, to reach our potential. And that's something I'm slowly coming to realize, and trying my best to be grateful and appreciate, you know, the very valuable gifts in bhakti that he has given me.
Yes.
So should we move on to some of your bands that you've played in? Before we begin, I've got a list of your bands here. I mean, it's really kind of reflective of you saying, you know, you're kind of a saxophonist by trade, really, as I'm a classical pianist by trade. You know, I went to university to study music. I suppose it might be quite. We've talked about Rattus, we've talked about Chaos. I'm thinking more about like the amount of straight edge bands that were around Finland at that point. And I know there was Sairat Mielet. Is that I'm rubbish at saying these names?
Yeah, Sairat Mielet. But the thing is, like, straight edge didn't really exist in Finland in like the early to mid 80s. Like the first straight edge bands that came up were Sairat Mielet from Lahti, and who were more of a traditional, you know, like thrashy hardcore punk band, you know, like they didn't really fit the straight edge, like the clean cut straight edge image of the late 80s youth crew wave, like the second wave of straight edge. But then there were two bands. So basically, like one band that, you know, changed their name. They were called Today's Waste, and they became Jury, or ex-Jury, influenced by bands like Judge, obviously, or Cause of Disapproval. and like those bands were, you know, like more following the example of the American, you know, champion hoodie skateboarder type of more clean cut, straight edge bands. But those, like all those bands, they came up like 89, 1990. So like through the 80s, straight edge didn't really exist in the Finnish hardcore punk scene.
Yeah, it's weird listening to Sarat Millet. It's you always think that because they're a kind of a straight edge band, they're going to come out, they're going to sound just like kind of American hardcore, but they sound more like kind of Maleka, the kind of, you know, this kind of UK 82 kind of punk. You know, they're very much, as you say, kind of a crossover between thrash and kind of UK 82, very, very shouty. And then we come up to your band. So I know that Hibakunta in 95 at the very young age of 14.
Yeah, Hibakunta, which the name translates to, I think, something like bishophood. You know, it's like this, like a department of the church. You know, because like, yeah, it was just, I think, you know, because there was a band that were kind of like our big brother band called Ehtoollinen, which means communion. So it was part of the, you know, the kind of like the anti-religious or like mocking, I guess, like, you know, mocking the Christian church kind of kind of vibe. But yeah, with Hibakunta, we were really, you know, inspired by the traditional Finnish hardcore. Fast early 80s hardcore sound, and then like with some of the same guys a couple of years later, we started Absurd Attitude, which was a crust core type of band, which was kind of like the natural development at the time, like most punks were getting more, you know, into the crust sound and style at, you know, by the mid 90s. So.
And then we have 2003 of Security Threat.
Yeah, Security Threat was my first straight edge band, and you know, we were quite how to say, like, you know, we were together only, I think, for maybe for a year and a half, like active. But you know, we released one EP called The Order on Full House Records, who were like basically the label for, you know, heavy, like modern American style hardcore in Finland at the time. And yeah, Security Threat was a straight edge band with like heavy focus on animal rights and, you know, vegan, vegetarian message. And our singer was like, he was really, you know, into the whole like Earth Crisis, being a straight edge thing. So, but I guess, you know, like musically, we, you know, like I was, when I, you know, I started writing the music, so I kind of like I still wanted it to be like, you know, fast hardcore. So like you know, I was like a lot of like my favorite, still my favorite bands are like Judge, Integrity, Cro-Mags. So yeah, and yeah, that was a really fun time, and I was really psyched to finally have a straight edge band of my own, and, you know, be like just unapologetically proud, you know, proud to be straight edge.
Would you mind if we play some? Would you?
Yeah, if you have some
yeah
stuff over there. Yeah, go ahead. Whoa.
I didn't want to turn that off. I think it's just great. It's absolutely fantastic. Really good stuff. And what could you take? I know that as you say, you become the kind of the songwriter. There was songs there that are called kind of, you know, there's that obviously Refusal, Declaration of War. There's even one called Eugenics. So is this about you, as you say, being quite sort of militant kind of animal rights? I mean, eugenics, for instance. Could you sort of go into that?
I'm not sure which, like, because there's also another band called Security Threat, actually like a crust band from, I hope we're not getting them mixed up, but yeah, like, because, yeah, but like, yeah, there was like the main, I think like a vegetarian vegan anthem was called Bloodstained. So
right, yeah,
yeah, that was quite militant. And most of our lyrics were written by our singer. And as I said, he was really into like the vegan, vegan metal, Earth Crisis kind of stuff. And like I think like a lot of the stuff that was coming out from Belgium,
right? Yeah,
in mid to late 90s, like the 8000 vegan metal, edge metal kind of stuff. And but yeah, I was mostly responsible for like the song, like the songwriting, music wise. I mean, obviously everything is, when you have a band, everything you work on the songs together and arrange it, especially our drummer Pekka. He also played in the band Endstand, which you might have heard of,
right?
From Finland. So yeah, he was just like a super talented drummer. So I think that made a lot of the sound was, that actually, when you have a hardcore band, you gotta have a good drummer. Yeah, otherwise it's not gonna work out. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I think we wanted to just like collectively, so like bring those topics more to the forefront of the hardcore scene, because like after the whole vegan straight edge animal rights boom of the mid 90s, there was, I think worldwide, there was kind of a backlash where it's kind of like, how to say, like more like nihilistic, anti-PC kind of, so like making hardcore, just more kind of like dumbed down again, so like I think like a lot of kids, they got disillusioned with their straight edge and vegan vegetarian ideals, and so I kind of like at the time, coming like towards like 2000, it's like at least like locally, we just wanted to bring those topics back into conversation in a very, like unapologetic kind of way, for better or worse. So.
And then you're in a band called On a Solid Rock.
Yeah, like Security Threat and On a Solid Rock, they were kind of like brother bands, like kind of like parallel, even like maybe kind of like the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because On a Solid Rock was started by my good friend Gurunishta Prabhu, Tume, as like his Finnish name, and he was already like into Krishna consciousness, so like a lot of his lyrics were, directly reflecting his personal growth and his personal struggles, and it's like I think they were really, like a lot of people have said that like On a Solid Rock was a huge band for them because of his lyrics, but they were really relatable. Like the album from On a Solid Rock was called Steal It Back, steal back your life, and just like anti, like I would say like anti, like criticizing the status quo of our society, and this whole capitalistic system that we live in. So yeah, but things like Security Threat and On a Solid Rock existed as separate bands, and the singer from Security Threat, he was the bass player for On a Solid Rock, but after Security Threat broke up because for personal reasons, he said he has to stop doing the band. He has to focus on his personal life. So that left us with Security Threat broken up, and On a Solid Rock missing a bass player. So I jumped in on bass and On a Solid Rock, and after some time we agreed that I will switch to second guitar, and we got our bass player from Security Threat, Markus, join on bass in On a Solid Rock. So that was the lineup we played through the last year of On a Solid Rock's existence, through like 2004, towards the end of 2004. And so Security Threat broke up quite unexpectedly, or like in early 2004, and then and towards the end of 2004, it became pretty obvious that On a Solid Rock will be done as well, because Tume, or Gurunishta Das, as he has come to be known, made the decision to fully dedicate his life, to serve in an ashram in a Krishna community in California, because his spiritual master, His Holiness Tripurari Swami Maharaj, has his Audarya community in Northern California. So he made the decision to try his wings, as a full-time Brahmachari student. So yeah, so then we wrapped up On a Solid Rock by the end of 2004, and yeah, that was it. We played 2 reunion shows just 4 years ago, almost to the day. like February 2017. Guru Nishta Prabhu came here for some time, and we had partially like a new lineup, but still, I guess it qualifies as a reunion show. And also, like Guru Nishta he recorded 2 new songs, like with our other guitar player and drummer. So that was also like to celebrate that release at the time. So, but no further plans. But you never know, because it was definitely like, it was a band that I would love to do something with, in even if we're 50 or whatever, still.
I'm not 50 yet. I'm 50 in about 2 months' time. So yeah,
I'm gonna be 40 this year.
Yeah, because you're about 10 years up behind me. Yeah. See, Madhu, you really like On a Solid Rock, don't you?
Yeah, I like it. I remember the first time I'm talking about almost in that time, like in 2000. No, I'm talking about 2009. I got in contact with On a Solid Rock because of a Krishnacon fanzine.
Yeah.
But I had the idea that it was mostly a Christian band. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I listened the songs. In fact, it's one of the albums that is in the blogspot Sonidos de Liberación.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like how it sounds, how it's like emotional, like then it's fast. It's like a structure of the songs is really nice. Also the lyrics, and yeah, we were talking before with Mike that I like On a Solid Rock, especially the other album. I never got it, the other album, but
I need to send it to you, because coincidentally, I don't play on either of those records.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, like I joined the band, like in the last year of its existence, but still like this, like,
I got the where the kids.
It's the only band. It's the only band of my own bands that I actually have a tattoo of, because I got the. Let us see. This torch. I don't know if you can see it.
So probably next time that Guru Nishta Prabhu will go to Finland, you will make another reunion show.
Yeah, I mean, at least I would love to make some, even if we won't play shows, but just to have, write some more music, with his lyrics and his vocals, that would be great. But that's, it's, yeah.
I sent you something in Instagram during the week, last week. It was, I know I sent you the video, but it was like really like people like it, like. People like it, like singing the songs and doing stand dive, and I know I was thinking, wow, the band, it was really great,
Yeah,
great.
It was like those, like, I mean, the show, like I remember, like the last show we played in 2004. It was really emotional. It was like just like a gathering of friends at a small venue, and I think like the reunion shows really captured that same feeling, like just small hardcore clubs and just everybody singing along and stage diving, and I think a lot of people who didn't get to see On a Solid Rock, like back in the day, even like it feels kind of silly to speak like for me, it was just a couple of years ago, but yeah, it's been like what, 16, 17 years. So that's like,
it's not so much, but it's not just few years. So. Now I was thinking that when you say that lyrically, the people feel like some reflected in the songs, in the lyrics of the songs.
Yeah, I think like Guru Nishta had the talent of expressing his feelings and ideas in a really universal and relatable way. It's like I think like, because obviously like, I think, it's coming from his bhakti aspirations, but it's on a level that anybody, any human being with heart and emotions, can relate to it. So
Yeah.
I think that's quite special, because I'm like I think like like even though like with like I said, with security threat, we were kind of forcing down this basic like ethical ideas down people's throats, but I think sometimes like a more palatable approach is more is better. So
no, I think that's a really good question as well, because I was wondering how that kind of creative process was going with you, on a Solid Rock, working with a devotee, working with a fellow Krishna devotee, and that kind of creative process and the lyrical content, etc. around that. Was it different to what you were working with those in security threats, for instance?
At the time, I think not so much, because like even like like because still like the rest of the band wasn't involved with Krishna consciousness. So even though like I share a lot of common history in the bhakti circles with Guru Nishta Prabhu, but still like it's still when you have a band, I think in general it's always more fun when you have a band with a purpose, like some it's like I don't know, like some concept of like a higher aspiration. It doesn't have to be like ideological per se, but just it definitely adds that like kind of like I love to play music, but it's different when you have like a like a, I don't know,
everyone going in the same
deeper
way.
Deeper meaning to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which brings us on to Cold Inside.
I
think that was 2006.
Around that time, I'm pretty sure. Like, so it had been like almost like a year, almost like I think 2 years after I hadn't been playing any music, and they were already they got started as a band under the name of Unity Murder, and the singer was still is a great friend of mine, Lauri. So we went to many road trips or ferry trips to Sweden to see bands in Stockholm and Linköping, like in the early 2000s. So that also, I think, it just came up from friendship. I think that's the best way, to get a band going. And I didn't know the other guys in the band at the time, but I think me and Lauri, we had a similar idea of what type of hardcore we want to play, and and a lot has changed since then. But actually, we're still a band, and I think it's like it's kind of like become its own entity, just. But we released our second full length digitally so far. Hopefully, we'll have an LP release coming up, but it's called Self, and I think with Cold Inside, the themes have there's I don't know, there's definitely like a spiritual aspect, maybe somewhat like an esoteric occult aspect to it, like I think all the guys in the band are in touch with their spiritual side, in some sense. So there's a lot of common ground to share, just talk philosophically, in the late hours after band practice or gigs. And I love all those guys to death. So yeah.
Should we have a listen to them? I've got here on Bandcamp, I've got the album End Starts and Broken Hearts.
Yeah, that's the first 7-inch. I think that came out in 2007, and yeah, at the time, I mean, it was still like kind of like going with playing with the same, you know, like same influences as I was when I was writing for Security Threat, which was like just like a lot of this, you know, heavier Cleveland hardcore, you know, Integrity, Ringworm, and also like a lot of the more rugged New York stuff like Chromax, Breakdown, Killing Time. Well, yeah, a lot the more like the more gritty side of late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I like gritty. Yeah. I prefer gritty.
The material world is gritty, so you can't.
Let's have a listen. Let me share this. So I like the Involved 1 minute 14.
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, bottom morning headline. Some great stuff going on there. Some really good stuff. And then this brings us up to Kill the Curse in 2008.
Yeah, Kill the Curse was it's kind of like a continuum of Security Threat. I had been talking about, you know, doing something new with the singer Kalle from Security Threat when, you know, he'd feel that the time is right. So, and I was listening to quite a lot of, you know, like more, how to say, you know, technical, you know, more like 90s metal hardcore stuff. And so, like, you know, wanted to do definitely like stuff that wouldn't have worked out with Cold Inside. So, yeah. We started Kill the Curse, and it was also kind of interesting because, like, lyrically, you know, there was a lot of this, you know, like philosophical stuff that was, well, just, you know, to be frank, you know, like atheistic, and it was it was a kind of, it was a bit hard for me to I say, like deal with, or kind of like figure out where do I stand with this so like obviously when you have a band and the singer writes the lyrics, they're coming from his perspective, and but yeah, definitely I felt some personal contradictions as far as presenting that message as a unit, as a band, but just like musically, it was I think I was really happy to do something new with Kalle, because he's a great vocalist, a great frontman, and just his guttural role, delivery is just like it's quite unique, just and even with the lyrics, I think I appreciate when first of all, when people question things and come into their own conclusions, and because I think hardcore punk rock, like subcultural music should be about that. You should have an open forum of ideas, and you should have room to question, and you should have room to disagree, and to an extent, agree to disagree.
Yeah.
You can still be friends. You can still hang out. You can still, share ideas, and just try to, communicate with people and find some common ground. Despite the differences, and I think that's something that's also a bit kind of getting lost in the current cancel culture, social environment that we are living in, especially, on social media. People are quite fast to jump into conclusions and, call out people, and, get them canceled for, without necessarily, researching or looking into it, so. And I hope, that will be like a passing phase, socially in our underground subcultures.
I do too. I hope it is going to be a passing phase, and I wish it would move on very quickly. Mardu, were you going to say something?
Yeah, about Mohan was saying something that sometimes it's like in the hardcore punk, sometimes we can, in the hardcore punk subculture, sometimes we can disagree in some ideas and still be friends. That's what I understood, no?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Sometimes I feel that this spirit is being loosened nowadays, because there is so much intolerance in the hardcore punk scene nowadays. That's what comes with the culture of cancellation culture.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. I think it's also like it's easy to become kind of like cliquey, because not to be overtly nostalgic about like the good old days, but like when you grow up in a smaller scene, like it's kind of like everybody kind of like hangs out hangs out together, and you kind of like have to get along, and you would have shows, and like just lineups of like having like a metal hardcore band and like a crust band and a street punk band on the same bill, and still like it's kind of like everybody would still know each other and hang out. But now it's kind of like especially with the internet, you can just kind of like pick your style and just find
it is
find the right records, find the right clothes, find the right friends.
This will happen mostly with the political ideas. For example, like, I know, if someone somehow it's like in the hardcore scene, sometimes there are people who try to control everyone. Like, you should think like this, you should think like this, you know.
It's kind of like,
And
yeah, I mean, I definitely see the value of, because, you know, when you have like an underground community, you sort of like have to police it yourself, you know, because no one else is going to do it for you. So in that sense, if, for example, you know, like violent Nazis start coming to your punk and hardcore shows, you know, you have to do something about it. And also, you know, but as far as, you know, just like this, how to say, scene gatekeeping, I think it often goes too far, where you really have to fit into a very narrow niche of, you know, having the right opinions and and I think it also kind of like turns against itself when people don't feel comfortable about, you know, expressing their ideas, or, like I said, questioning, because I think this, you know, like questioning established truths is the whole, you know, the backbone of punk and hardcore. So you should always be allowed to ask, you know, why, you know, what's the basis, you know, what's the proof. So.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely dead right there. That's one of the things that I took over from, really, or just saw the similarities between punk and sort of the Krishna conscious movement, was this idea that you have to be inquisitive, you have to question. You really need to question those around you and question the texts, and so you can get to a deeper meaning of this stuff. And it is about that inquisitiveness.
I think that's like, also when it comes to, you know, the Bhakti philosophy, you know, it's not about blind faith or, you know, blind obedience, but, you know, like it said that, you know, Krishna gives us the intelligence by which to come to him. So, you know, we should use that God-given intelligence to, you know, figure things out and really internalize, you know, the meanings and the philosophy. Like I remember, like, one of the first and honestly, like, the best advice I got from a senior Vaishnava, actually a guru in ISKCON, was that, you know, one, you know, like a practicing devotee, as we say, sadhak, should become a Vaishnava of integrity. So, and you cannot develop this spiritual integrity if your understanding is on the superficial level and just doing as you're told. So, yeah, we should always, you know, we should be inquisitive, you know, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, tad vidi pranipatana pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti de jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So, yeah, we should be inquisitive, and we should approach those, you know, who already possess this knowledge and this wisdom. Yeah. So.
Okay, great. We've come up to Kill the Curse in 2008. So we're next up to No Part in 2010.
Yeah, No Part was my kind of like childhood dream of doing like really like a youth crew straight edge, like traditional no metal, fast straight edge hardcore, you know, inspired by my first love, Youth of Today.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands from that era. And yeah, No Part went on from like 2010 till 2014. We played quite a lot locally and also in Sweden and Norway. And we released a demo, and we recorded for an EP that's actually, it's online at the Bandcamp site, but it was never officially released as the band kind of like folded pretty soon after that, and a couple of compilation tracks. But No Part was another, you know, like heavy on the vegetarian animal rights message, and also with a certain, you know, spiritual, I don't know, like a very subtle, like a subtle spiritual side to it as well.
Yeah.
You know, our singer Jaakko, once again, you know, he was writing the lyrics, and a lot of good, you know, socially conscious stuff, and it was just like, you know, playing that type of hardcore that I, you know, grew up with, and really having another, you know, like a full-on straight edge band, you know, was yeah. I have really fond memories of those times.
And I know that we've already talked about Tammerfist, but we've also got All Glories. So you're currently in a band called All Glories, and
yeah. I mean, All Glories. It's I don't know. I mean, in a sense, it's a project, but it's I take it very seriously, and hopefully, when the whole COVID situation settles, you know, I will have a full lineup, you know, to play some shows. But currently, it's me and my friend Lassi, who plays the drums and handles a lot of the technical side, you know, the recording and the mixing. But yeah, it's me.
So
writing songs and writing the lyrics and singing the lyrics.
Doing everything. So can I play us a little bit of All Glories? This is great stuff as well. This is absolutely fantastic.
I like it.
mean, that is just great. And I love this as well. Rock Against Mayor, short cropped rock and roll inspired by Vedic thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, I was writing the songs more, in the street punk, skinhead rock and roll vein, and obviously a lot of skinhead music is focused on this working class lifestyle of drinking beer, getting into fights, hooking up with girls, and going to football matches, and but I also feel like it's a once again I feel as a lifestyle skinhead is about integrity and honesty and standing up for yourself. And I felt like I want to write the lyrics that I don't feel like how to say totally contradictory or like fake sing about. So yeah, it's some of them are more, how to say, philosophical, or one might say not necessarily mythological, that's maybe the wrong term, but based on the stories found in the Vedic scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam. But mostly it's kind of like coming from the Cro-Mag school of Bhakti Yoga, just the reflections and realizations that come with living as a working class spiritual practitioner in an urban environment.
Yeah.
So
did you ever do you see yourself as a Krishna core band, or those bands that you were in? Did you see any of them as being specifically Krishna core?
I mean, definitely I felt, it's kind of I don't know, I have mixed feelings about the term, because it can be a bit, how to say it, how to put it nicely, a bit cringy, because I think it's kind of like you put yourself in that little niche, in that little box for other people to have like some pre-manufactured idea of what you're about. And in that sense, it kind of works. It can work against itself.
Yeah.
But definitely, in the sense that On a Solid Rock was fronted by a Krishna devotee who wrote lyrics about his own realizations and life experiences, and and that element, like some of it, was definitely present in no part, but it's always like I don't know. It's when for me, like when I write music, and I think it's important for me to, if I'm friends, with the singer, who writes the lyrics, and I know where they're coming from, and I can relate to that. So that's that's kind of like, that's important. That's that's good enough for me. But with All Glories, like, well, kind of like starting from the name, which is I think it's quite a it's a suitable name for for like how to say, skinhead band, but it's also a reference to this standard temple Premadwani prayers, where you offer all glories to the assembled devotees and to the the different saintly personalities in our Gaudiya Vaishnava, Rupanuga, disciplic succession or lineage. So, but definitely it's like I want to keep the focus on, writing about these Vedic themes and, the Vaishnav from the perspective of the Vaishnav philosophy, but in a way that, that comes naturally for me.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think, just with anything, we don't, I don't want to, I'm not a monk, I'm not a saint, I don't even feel so much like, I'm like being like a religious guy, but for me, Krishna consciousness, it's about life, and it's about reality, and it's about, this urgency to seek the truth, and so like see through the the whole status quo that our modern society is trying to sell us as the source of happiness, and this whole like really insane lifestyle that we're being dragged into by default, just by being brought up in this society. So
yeah.
Madhu, did you want to continue with your we've only got a few questions left, haven't we?
Yeah, we have already 1 hour and a half, so I think the next wow, time flies. You wear kanti in every concert, and there was a time that you, for example, you perform a kirtan in the show, before the show, or prasad distribution. There was something like that.
I remember, like, I think this goes, like, one incident I remember, like, this goes back to the On a Solid Rock band Defend, which I think we discussed about just recently with Madhu.
Yeah.
I think like Defend actually, because also their guitar player at the time was, he was into Krishna consciousness. So I remember they did like some, this kind of like a crossover kirtan night with the ISKCON devotees, where they had, they had a kirtan performance, and then they had, Defend playing their hardcore show, and they had, prasadam. And I think that is actually like in the history of Finnish hardcore punk, that's like, I think that's like the one occasion. I'm not sure if it was like one concert or like a couple of different occasions, but I definitely remember that. And also like when there was a bit before my time, but when Shelter played in Helsinki, the local devotees from the Helsinki temple came there to distribute prasadam. And but I mean, obviously, like, yeah, I always wear my kanti mala, and like half my body is covered with tattoos related to the culture of Krishna Bhakti. A lot of other nonsense as well, but yeah, that's
there was never a Krishna core band in Finland, or 100%.
I think, like, for better or worse, and I think like On a Solid Rock was the closest that came,
yeah,
to being like, also, yeah, Defend. I mean, yeah, because Tume Gurenishta, as is known, he was the singer for both Defend and On a Solid Rock.
Right.
So
did I'm thinking about Ray Cappo's interview in Maximum Rock and Roll, and some of the Inquirer fanzines that I've got here really highlight the tensions that were around in the hardcore scene in America at the time. You know, keep religion out of hardcore.
Also,
you know.
Also in Europe, definitely.
Did you find those kind of tensions where you were as well?
Yeah, and yeah, I definitely got my share of, well, no way to put it nicely, just like, you know, shit talking and harassment, just, you know, on the basis of openly being into Krishna consciousness in the hardcore scene. And I've had people very quick, you know, were quick to call me out as a hypocrite because I, you know, still have my record collection, or like whatever, you know, sneakers or band merchandise, because like you know people have this idea of anti-materialism, you know, being, you know, that you have to be an ascetic, you know, like basically living, you know, either you live like a monk or you're a hypocritical materialist. And I think for anybody who's more acquainted with the Bhakti philosophy, you know, they'll come to understand that it's not, you know, like where, you know, it's not so black and white. It's like wherever you're situated, you know, we all have different, you know, different qualities, different mentalities. And I think like the whole idea of Bhakti philosophy is trying to be, you know, naturally situated according to your, you know, your psychology and natural tendencies to practice this Bhakti culture, Krishna consciousness peacefully. So, but yeah, that's the tensions. I mean, they're still there. I think, yeah, it's just quite recently I had an online quarrel about the kind of like aforementioned issues of, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, you're stupid for following a religion, but you know, since you're following a religion, you know, you should be, you know, so like you know, like a recluse, ascetic, living in a cave. Otherwise, you know, you're not you're not true to your religion. So it's kind of, you can't win. It's, you know, like as cliche as it may sound, but like, you know, like Prabhupada would say, I think like John Joseph Jayananda also quotes this, you know, you either have the fly mentality, where you're just looking for the faults in other people, you know, for all the grime and the dirt, you know, or you have the bee mentality and you're trying to see the sweetness and the good qualities and the virtues in others and the efforts that they're, you know, trying to make on the spiritual path or any other, you know, personal path.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So, Mike,
did you want me to? That's the final.
Mohan, last thing, I think that you would like to say some final words, like something to people who are listening the podcast.
Yes, obviously, first of all, my heartfelt Sastang Dandavats to you, Madhubrat, Prabhu, and Mike, Prabhu, for keeping up this Krishna Core blog, and like I think it's a great service, and you know, like documenting this branch of hardcore punk music and, you know, the whole culture and the history of it, because like a lot of things are, you know it's kind of like it's an oral tradition, or, you know, to an extent, like a written tradition in fanzines and so forth. But I think it's important to keep it alive, and also keep it documented, so to maintain the authenticity of the history of Krishna consciousness in this vast hardcore punk subculture. And I would like to dedicate this on my behalf to my friend, my recently departed friend Advaita Acharya Prabhu from Hungary, who passed away due to long-term health problems. And also a heads up to Mark Belanca from Zero Tolerance. I just spent a good part of this afternoon listening to his interview on the Nickel City Soundtrack NCS podcast, which you can find on Spotify. Okay. Really good stuff on his involvement in the early Buffalo, New York hardcore scene, and also his involvement in Krishna consciousness. And yeah, good stuff. Definitely check it out.
Will do. Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohan.
Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was nice to talk to you again.
My pleasure.
We can, unfortunately, we can't meet together like face to face, but at least we can use the technology to do some stuff like this. And
I think that's
we have something to do soon about this Krishna Core presentation in UK, maybe. Like,
yeah, that's
you have some idea.
Yeah, I feel like that's something I would really like to make happen, to have like an actual exhibition about the history of Krishna consciousness in the hardcore scene, and like have as much of as can be gathered, this artifacts, fanzines and merchandise and records and photographs from the different eras of
It'd be great.
Krishna core.
Maybe to include some bands also, if it's possible. On a Solid Rock reunion show, UK.
Yeah.
All glories, finally, first show. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you. Krishna. I hate ending these things. I hate ending them.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to be like everybody likes to talk about themselves, but I think it's more like I just talk about my efforts or my participation in the Krishna conscious aspects of this scene, and hopefully some of that I like to listen to people tell about their personal history and how they got into whatever music and subcultures they got into. So yeah. Hopefully this wasn't too redundant on my behalf.
No, it wasn't. It's lovely. It's great. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Krishna Mike. Hare Krishna Mohan.